Who's that? Commander Claw. Who's bad? Commander Claw. Welcome back to another episode of Breaking Brews. If it's your first time here, this is where a series I bring you 5 cards for a commander or a specific card. But today we talk about Edgar Markov and 5 cards from the Tarkir Dragonstorm set that you could possibly add as an upgrade to your deck. Yeah, right now Edgar Markov is super popular, going around $30 to $40 as of April 2025. But guess what? He's a top 10 commander and for very good reason. Vampire Tribal is very powerful, and it's actually a pretty unique tribal, I would say. And this commander is just the be all, best of all Vampire Tribal deck. Without further ado, let's highlight his abilities. Let's talk about him, how to play with him. Uh, all you new players, read the comments below because these old heads who play with this commander are going to shed some really good information. If you're old school with this commander, let players know what you do with this deck. Let's go. So for 3 in Mardu, you got a 4/4 body, legendary vampire knight. He has Evanescence, which says whenever you cast another vampire spell, if Edgar Markov is in the command zone or on the battlefield, create a 1/1 black vampire creature token. Edgar Markov has first strike, and he has haste. He also says whenever he attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on each vampire you control. So what you need to know is every time you cast a vampire, you get another vampire. And every time you attack with Edgar Markov, those vampires get +1/+1 counters on each of one of them. So you get to do Mardu things. You get to create tokens and you get to do anthem effects. And what makes him really nasty, he's got first strike and haste. So if you want to finish off an opponent, go for commander damage, you just can take out an opponent at that perfect time, especially after board wipes. And just don't underestimate him sitting in the command zone. Most of the time, players don't even cast him; they just let him sit in the command zone. And when it's his time to shine on the battlefield, you know who Edgar Markov is. So first off, let's talk about the first card from Tarkir Dragonstorm that you can use as an upgrade. Tarkir Dragonstorm, storm. Qarsi Revnant, I gotta like this art. I like it. It grew on me because it kind of has like that Japanese shinobi face with the demon mask. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Anyway, he's got 1/2 black, 3/3 body vampire. He has flying. He has death touch, and he has lifelink. My God, for 3 mana to have all 3 of those things, that is a problem. So when you cast him with Edgar Markov, you get an additional vampire. What? That's how nasty he is. Anyways, he's a top 10 commander, Edgar Markov. But back to Qarsi Revenant. He has Renew for 2 and a black. Exile this card from your graveyard. Put a flying counter, a death touch counter, and a lifelink counter on target creature. Activate only as a sorcery. So, you know, let's say the scenario is an opponent has taken out Qarsi Revenant earlier in the game. He's sitting in your graveyard, and it's finally time for Edgar Markov to shine. You cast Edgar Markov. Remember, he has first strike and haste. So before you go to combat, you can activate Qarsi's Revenant Renews ability and give Edgar Markov flying, death touch, and lifelink, along with his first strike and haste. My God. Moving on to the next card. Look, we got Ironwill Forger here. 3 and a white, 3/3 body, Orc Artificer. He has Lieutenant. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, target non-legendary creature you control gains Myriad until end of turn. Whenever it attacks for each opponent other than defending player, you may create a token copy that's tapped and attacking that player, or a planeswalker they control. Exile the tokens at the end of combat. So, there's a bunch of powerful non-legendary vampires out there. I mean, it can get out of control. Just let me show you a couple of them. The main one I really want to highlight is the Bloodthirsty Conqueror in the top right-hand corner. For 3 and 2 black, it's a 5/5 Vampire Knight, flying death touch. Whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. So imagine if that had Myriad. You create a total of 2 additional Bloodthirsty Conquerors, and whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. That's for each opponent that you dealt damage to. Y'all can start doing the math there. Really, really disgusting. Champion of Dusk is another non-legendary vampire that would love to have Myriad. Another one is Patron of the Vein. And finally, Markov Baron at the top left-hand corner. The list goes on and on. Ironwheel Fortress is just a must-add to add more vampires to the collection. And don't forget, when Edgar Markov attacks, you get to put +1/+1 counters on each vampire you control, just making them stronger. I'm not gonna lie to you. The title "Vampires Never Die" and the title of this card, the name of this card, it just goes so well together in my mind with the whole vampire lore. Reunion of the house, because vampires got to huddle together, and there's always some kind of leader. Just imagine Castlevania, the vampire guy, and they're all dark and shit like that. Great card. Anyways, Reunion of the House for 5 and 2 white. It's a sorcery. Return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Exile Reunion of the House. You'll be surprised how many power 2 vampires there are out there. So essentially, if your graveyard is loaded with these vampires with power 2, you can get back 5 of them for 7 mana. That's a really good rate. Really good rate. Let me show you a couple of them. So, power 2 is common in these vampires. We got the one over here, Dusk Apostle for 2 and a white, 2/2 vampire, legendary vampire cleric. Whenever one or more non-token vampires you control attack, create a 1/1 white vampire creature token with lifelink. Bam, bring him back. Next up, you can bring back Clavileno, First of the Blessed, for 1 and white and black, 2/2 vampire cleric. Whenever you attack, target attacking vampire that isn't a demon becomes a demon in addition to its other types. It gains when this creature dies, draw a card and create a tap 4/3 white and black vampire demon creature token with flying. Okay, another 2-powered. I've already talked about him. Markov Baron for 2 and a black. Vampire Noble. He has Convoke, where you tap creatures to cast them. He also has Lifelink. Then he says other vampires you control get +1/+1. Then he has Madness. The list goes on of power 2 vampires. Strength in numbers is the game. Anthem effects are very good with vampires. So I'm recommending Zen Festival because there's going to be times in the game where you just need to see cards and possibly play cards. I like these type of cards. I like those gambling type of cards because they can potentially get you over the hump or get you into the game-winning scenario. Zenith's Festival for X and 2 red, sorcery. Exile the top X cards of your library. You may play them until the end of your next turn. So when you cast this, it goes, all those cards that you exile continue to the end of your next turn. That's a full cycle. And they're protected because they are in exile. Then Zenith Festival has Harmonize. Same casting cost. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its Harmonize cost. You may tap a creature you control to reduce that cost by an amount of generic mana equal to its power. Then exile a spell. So remember all those vampires, the additional vampires that you receive from casting a vampire using Edgar Markov. You can use them to cast Zenith Festival. What do you know? And this card can be put into your graveyard on purpose. That's how powerful this card is. So you can utilize the creatures that you already have to add mana to this. It's literally Convoke, but they call it Harmonize. Great card. Moving on to another powerful Tarkir Dragonstorm. So there's going to be games where you need to get cards back from the graveyard. Will of the Just Guide does that. For 3 and a red, it says it's a sorcery. Choose one. If you control a command as you cast a spell, you may choose both instead. First of one. Each player may discard their hand and draw 5 cards. Okay, a wheel effect. Reload your hand, reload your opponent's hand. Maybe you have some kind of synergy with that. But each instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. The flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. Cards like this will win you games because how many times has opponent made you discard a card, or you had to mill a card, or you just lost a card in your library that got put into the graveyard some way, somehow, or you never was able to cast it. Flashback is key. You got to remember your graveyard is like an extension of your library if you got the cards built into your deck for it. So let me tell you a couple cards that you can bring back that are instants of sorceries used in Edgar Markov. A vampire synergy spell is New Blood for 2 and 2 black sorcery. As an additional cost to cast a spell, tap and untap vampire you control. That's easy to do. Gain control of target creature. Change the text of that creature by replacing all instances of one creature type with vampire. Vampire synergy right there. Stealing a creature, great flavor. Moving on. Another card that wins games is Ruinous Ultimatum. It's an expensive casting cost, but it ultimately says destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control. If your opponents have nothing on the battlefield and you have a bunch of vampires and your commander, you should win the game. So, Edgar Markov, top 10 commander, super popular because Vampire Tribal is super powerful. And, Edgar Markov just sits in the command zone and makes an additional vampire. Most commanders don't have Evanescence. So, unique ability, strong payoff, Mardu type of things, great in combat, great with aristocrats. I mean, the list goes on. Favorite commander, top 10, please.